Hi everybody, it's Krista Kenner with Coldwell Banker Bain. I'm here in my office in Bellingham and I just wanted to take a minute to share some stats about the local housing market and share kind of some predictions on what might happen in 2018 here. We had Mike Grady, the CEO of Coldwell Banker Bain, giving a talk to our office this morning. He shares information quarterly with us about what's happening across the Northwest MLS and across Western Washington. And so I took that and went back to my office and did a little bit of research about the Bellingham market to compare. As you may have heard, Seattle is experiencing a little bit of a slowdown in the last 6 months or so. And so everybody's been asking me, is that going to happen here? And I always try to tell people, I'm not a psychic, I'm not a fortune teller, but I do my best to try to make some, best guesses based on market stats. So in January of 2015, that's when the market across the Western Washington really started to take off. And from January 2015 to November of 2018, our average sales price in the Northwest MLS increased 30.6% in 3 years. It's the highest increase of average sales price in the nation in the last 3 years. So it's been a really strong market. But that increase kind of took place mostly in the beginning part of that timeline, because in April of 2018, we started to noticing a softening of the market. And from April 2018 to November of 2018, prices started decreasing about 6.9%. And again, that's across the Northwest MLS as a whole. And it's not specific to Bellingham, but interesting nonetheless. Our labor market is still really strong in this region. The number of job openings has never been higher. Employers are still looking for qualified candidates, and so that bodes well for the housing market. That could shift, right, with the volatility of the stock market and businesses kind of cutting back, anticipating that our growth period might be over. That could shift, but one of the cool things about Bellingham, and one of the reasons why I feel a little bit insulated from the market fluctuations that you might see in a larger city like Seattle, a tech hub, is that we have a lot of more stable employers. So we have Peace Health, the hospital, we have Western Washington University, we have the city of Bellingham, we have the refineries. These are organizations that are a little less likely to be impacted by a recession. So right now in Bellingham, this is crazy to me, even though I live this and breathe this, but right now our average sales price in December of 2018 was $447,000. And in January of 2018, it was $429,000. So we just kept on increasing all year long. We had a little bit of a dip in May when the inventory was at its peak in the year, the highest, which is normal. So in May, the average sales price dropped to $420, but it just kept going up. We're at $447 right now. This is the highest it's ever been ever, by the way. I went back and looked at, the past 10 or 15 years, and the market peaked in July of 2007, and at that point, that was our last peak, and at that point, our average sales price was $323,000. And then we hit the mortgage crisis, and we had the crash and the downturn, and then we started to kind of slowly inch our way back up again, and we hit that $323,000 average sales price in 2015, and then we kept going. And so right now we're the highest we've ever been. We have increased our market, whereas the overall Northwest MLS has increased 30.6% in the last 3 years, the Bellingham market has increased 37% in the last 3 years. And so people ask me, is it going to stay the same? Is it going to keep going up? It's really hard to make those predictions, but there's a couple reasons. One, I already shared with you why I don't think we're going to necessarily have a fallout. Our job market is more stable, and our inventory levels are still pretty low. So I like to look at months of inventory, and months of inventory is a stat that kind of shows, it helps you determine whether you're in a seller's market or a buyer's market. And a balanced market is about 5 to 6 months of inventory. And in King County King County in 2017 and 2018, they were around 1 to 1.5 months supply of inventory. So definitely a seller's market. In Bellingham, we were about 2.5 to 3 months of inventory throughout, the last couple of years. So what's interesting is that, you look at the beginning of 2018 in Bellingham and then the end of 2018, and that months of supply actually went down in the last year. So there's a demand for housing here. And I want to make 2 more points. The demand for housing. And the reason and how that I think that's going to impact 2019. And the first one is we have a lot of people moving here. We have a lot of people moving here from out of the area. I had 5 California buyers alone this past year, and a couple of them were like, I can't survive another summer with wildfires, and a couple of them are planning for retirement. There's a lot of people who want to retire here. It's a more affordable place to retire than California. We're also having a lot of people move up here from King County, Seattle, King County, because to them, our housing prices are just a dream. And so we have an influx of people moving to the area, and this is my second point, this town is not very development friendly. We're very environmentally focused, which I think is a good thing, but it comes at a cost. It's a hard place to build. It's expensive to build here. We're not putting up large condo buildings and apartment buildings all over the place like Seattle is. I read somewhere recently that they have a 1 in 10 units in Seattle is vacant right now. And the, apartment buildings are doing all these incentives again for, potential tenants to move in. And we're not seeing any of that in Bellingham. We have a tight rental market. We're not building condos and apartments. We're barely building houses. There's a few pocket neighborhoods and a few areas where builders are, building new homes, but we don't, in general, have a lot of new construction here. We don't have a lot of land that's left that's planned for development, and it surprises people because they come here and they think, oh my gosh, there's so much beautiful land here. There's going to be, so much room for development, but it's not planned for development. And we have high impact fees. We have a lot of stormwater considerations. It's not an easy place to build. So, people have their different opinions on that, but it is what it is, and it actually does have an impact on our housing market. I don't believe we're building to meet the demand of the people who actually are moving here and who want to move here and who will be moving here. So if you are a potential buyer and you're worried about the housing prices right now, it's a valid concern, but maybe some of these points that I'm making here might alleviate some of your concerns a little bit. If you are a seller, just know that it's still a good time to sell. And if you're a buyer, a hot tip is that the interest rates have just recently dropped to 4.5%, and we haven't seen that rate in a long time. We actually hit 5% not that long ago. So dropping to 4.5%, that 0.5 percentage point really increases your purchasing power quite a bit. So that is some great news there. So I think that's all I have to share with you right now, and I hope that was helpful. I'll try to do one of these again soon. Thanks.